Hi everyone, it's Ren here. Hope you're doing well, guys.
Hello.
Today we're welcoming one of my friends. His name is Julian, and he is an ENTP. So I think that hopefully my followers will be curious about this particular conversation because actually I happen to get on really well with ENTPs, but I think it's the first time that I have a beautiful, energetic, intelligence ENTP as my guest. So how are you doing, Julian? How was work? Everything okay?
It's funny because he's actually my guest because he's in my place.
Yeah.
Thank you, Renaud, for that. Everything is going really well, thank you. So
Okay, so let's get straight in the conversation and let's try to tackle what the audience wants to hear. So perhaps we can seize this opportunity to look into maybe the relationship between like INFJ and ENTP through our relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So if I asked you, what do you think that we have in common, first of all, what would be your answer? Like just off the top of your head. Do you think that we have characteristics in common?
Yeah, well, INFJ and ENTP, there is one letter in common, is the N.
Yeah.
So pretty much that's the one we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Well, I would say that I'm very curious generally, and I like to have deep conversation. That's why you're my friend.
Yeah.
And it's funny that we talk about the MBTI model pretty much at the same time, and we were not quite sure about the results.
Yeah.
And well, sometimes the result you got is not exactly the right one, but after a lot of experimentation, I'm quite sure that I'm an ENTP now, and so I'll be happy to maybe tell you more about what defines me.
Oh yeah. So you think that we have in common, if we just were to summarize about like what you think we have in common, being curious, liking intellectual conversations, stuff like that.
Yes. Well, I think. I'm very curious. The difference between you and I is that sometimes I'm too curious in the way that I like to explore a lot, but I get bored after a while. So I don't go at the very end of a topic that I start.
Mm-hmm.
And that might be a problem. So that requires some discipline if I want to achieve a personal project. And that's why actually I got bad results that didn't show up ENTP, but I think when I read my functions, the functions of ENTP that are NETI, I think it matches really well with my personality because I am so curious and I like to explore a lot of things, multidimensional level actually. It can be spiritual,
scientific,
philosophy, scientific, and so on. So.
Yeah, I have to say, like, Julian is basically excited as long as something is like intellectually stimulating. Like, he can be excited by so many different things. Like, I think that maybe your lack of ability sometimes to go to the full depth is compensated by the extension of your interests.
It's true.
Julian has also been around the world. You've been around the world.
Yeah, I've traveled in 71 countries so far.
71 countries. Yeah. That's pretty crazy. I must have been to like 15, and I think I'm, making them. I think this is exceptional, but so.
So yeah, actually that illustrates well what can be an ENTP because I'm so curious. I need to explore. It's one of the dimensions I was just mentioning before. Actually,
yeah.
Traveling is one of them. Discovering cultures, people, and so on.
And so, now, what do you think that makes us different? Where do you think that we're like different? Next to the similarities, which probably brought us kind of together and made us get on, and if you can bring it within the sort of model ENTP versus INFJ.
Yeah. Okay. Actually, it's in the letters. Which generally speaking, I think I'm more extrovert.
Yeah.
Even though I am not the most extrovert type of person, I mentioned that I am very curious, but I get interested in so many things. I think you are more focused on one thing, and well,
we all know what it is.
Actually, it's two things. It's philosophy and MBTI. But let's say that you are very focused on the things you like.
Yeah.
And well, you are more sensitive. Well, I think in general, we know each other really well, and in different situations.
We know each other for 10 years, I think, or 9 years.
More or less, yes.
Yeah,
it's true.
If I allow myself to be a little bit narcissistic, what type did you think I might be before I told you? Because I went through different possibilities. Did you have like types in mind, or was it always a bit hard for you to type me?
I think you didn't like the idea that you were F. But after all, you had to admit it. At the beginning, we are not very happy about that, but you had to admit it, because we have a lot of conversation. I say I am the rational guy, and you say, yeah, no, you're not. But actually, well, he's very rational, but I am the rational type.
Yeah. I think that's fair, you know, because we had a lot of conversations, and that's already a few years ago already, maybe 2 years ago. So this has been going on for a long time. And for a long time I thought I was a T, and I considered only the possibility, because I didn't really understand the difference between the functions. And what's interesting is that when you said basically that you thought you were ENTP, to me it made sense. I think that maybe if you had told me that in Ireland, I would have been like, oh, extrovert, not too sure. But by then, like, you had become, I think, more assertive, and it was quite clear that you were some kind of extrovert. And then, like, looking more into the model and knowing that sometimes ENTPs are not necessarily the most extroverted of extroverts, it just made a lot of sense. Whereas for me, it took a bit more time, and I think it's because I have this clear rational side in a way, but I just never envisaged the possibility that that might be the INFJ way in a way, like, you know, ability to be rational, but always kind of a bit more anxious, a bit more sensitive.
I agree. So to continue what you asked me, I think about the J part that differentiates us. It illustrates in the fact that you're dedicated to the things you love. You dedicated so much time to philosophy, and sometimes I have some things I'd like to achieve, and well, it's a couple of years. It takes a couple of years, and it's still going on, and I need to work on it. I think it requires more discipline in my case than it requires for you, because you have this capacity to focus completely and forget about everything else.
To be in my world.
That I don't have, so I have to work on it. But yeah. So about the personality you mentioned that we could get wrong. I got ENTJ.
Yeah.
I think it doesn't match well, but I was really honest in my answers.
Yeah.
But the thing is,
do you remember what you got on J, like 60% or 55? Or?
Well, I think it was close to 50%, but I am organized. I mean, in my job I need to be organized. In my personal time I am also organized. Of course I could be more organized, but I think it's more like something that that is not natural. Let's say that I built this ability, but it's not a natural ability, and the functions really work really well to understand the personality more than the letters.
Yeah, I think that's also what completely. And I remember we had conversations when we started looking into them, and we were like, yeah, okay, you're NE, I'm NI. It was just so clear, you know, like it just made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And so that's where I was like, wow, this model is actually quite interesting.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
And it's funny because nowadays I think, like, Julian tells me, God, whenever we meet after half an hour, we're talking about MBTI and what is this person, and we're trying to type them.
More than me, because you know you're kind of obsessed. You can be more obsessed than me about things, maybe.
Yeah, when I'm interested in something, like sometimes it's like this. It's almost like a tunnel vision. It's like philosophy or some project, and I'm like, thinking about it all the time. It's
but it would be unfair to say that I'm not like that, because an ENTP can be also so curious, and the NE can be sometimes maybe kind of weird, or maybe, I don't know, like kind of interested in things that people don't really care, and it's not an obsession, but it's kind of different personality also. So I that's why actually we like each other very much. Like, we can understand each other in the way that being interested in different subjects.
Yeah.
And not only in basic stuff, superficial, like going out and so on.
Honestly, I feel like this weekend it's been. I think this is the 4th or 5th day that I'm here in Malaga, and I think that I'm leaving tomorrow. But we've mostly had conversations that were not the average kind of bullshit.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
And if I had to say, it's definitely the thing that is the most relevant to describe a relationship, that we are not conformist and we are interested in more deep subjects.
Yeah.
And even though when you look at the letters, they are just one in common, but I feel like we have more in common that we can have with some people that maybe have more letters in common. The N letter is definitely the one that is the more relevant in our case.
Yeah, no, I agree. But don't you think that maybe it's not just the N? I mean,
I think it's NT, but your NF is very close to NT actually.
Yeah, it's kind of like in between or something.
Yeah,
And
I have other friendships with NT type a lot.
yeah,
Actually,
yeah,
much less of NF, but the INFJ maybe is more rational, so
it tends to be a bit more rational than the INFP. Or let's say that it's possible for an INFJ, often it's more men apparently, it's possible for an INFJ to, obviously you have your feelings, but it's possible to be close to an NT in a way that for functional reasons is not really possible for an INFP. And I think this contributes because we have the N in common. It's a different kind of N, but maybe maybe it's also maybe they're drawn to each other in a way, because I'm attracted to your variety of interests, I think, consciously or not. Like, it's exciting. And maybe you're interested in the fact that I'm able to focus and go deep into things. And maybe there's a way in which there is a complementarity. And then I do use TI and FE, and you also use them. I mean, the order is reversed. But
I use TI, yeah.
And Julian doesn't like to admit that FE is relevant for him, because he likes to think he's a super rational man. But I think
I am rational.
You are, but I think you have a pretty good FE.
Okay, good to know. And well, yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Would you not say that you have a sensitive side, at least, even if it's underneath the rational side?
That's the thing I wanted to say. That
an introspective.
I like relationship with T because I don't like to have conversation too emotional. I prefer a lot conversation rational, NT conversation actually that are also deep and rational. I really feel like it's relevant. And it's interesting. I don't lose my time actually.
Yeah. But you're introspective, because sometimes there's a cliche about ENTPs, extroverts in general, but perhaps a lot of the time it's ENTPs. They're supposed to be like kind of crazy. They go everywhere and they don't have this introspective side. I think you have it.
Yeah, I really have it. And actually, I know other ENTP, and I think they are. Not quite a lot, but well, a couple that I know that are a lot into self-development. So self-development means also introspection. So I think it's really something with the ENTP.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. That's great to know. And I think some of you guys maybe will be surprised, but in a good sense. Well, we're getting to maybe the end of our video lengthwise. I think this is about good. Concluding words. Any? If you had to briefly talk about some projects that you'd like to achieve in the next few years, intellectual or otherwise, anything you'd like to share?
No, I think it's personality is great. It's good to make a video, but the important thing is friendship. So, when we see Renault, we talk a lot about MBTI, but more than anything, I meet a friend, and I'm always happy for that.
These are beautiful words. Well, guys, thank you, Julian, for coming on Ren's room. Now, Renaud continue.
Okay. Ciao.
Appreciate it, man. And
okay.
see you soon, guys. Hope you enjoyed it.
Okay.
Ciao.
Bye.